Trying some new audio junk out on the mic. We'll see if this actually works. I probably had it too high pressure before. I'll use our own plugins like I should be in the first place, right? It's already crazy hot. I'm thinking about turning this AC back on because I'm cooking. And coming from an Arizonan, that's no small thing. Mm-hmm. Kind of crazy how much I used to love talking about gear, and nowadays it's like the last thing I want to talk about ever. Weird, huh? That's how life changes. No, I don't mind talking about how to test or how to even use gear. It's just like people just constantly talking about, oh, this one is like the coolest sounding tube or whatever. I'm just tired of that stuff by a lot. Let's get going here. As usual, if the audio is weird, let me know. But welcome to Evidence-Based Audio number 183. And this is Never Pay to Play. And I'd love to say neverpaytoplay.com, but that seems to be gone now. Oh, I'm really hearing a ring. Where am I hearing a ring from? I don't have any open soda cans up here. I don't have... Well, I guess just because I'm talking sideways. Anyways, sorry about that. So first thing today is... you guys might know I was recently on Spectre's Sound Studios page. That's Glenn Fricker. You know, the... very, very important channel when it comes to audio engineering, I think, in this day and age, one of the bigger YouTube channels for this stuff, and probably one of the more entertaining ones. And he and I and Ethan Weiner have been doing a couple, I think this is our third one, Don't Get Mad, Get Evidence. We're talking about skepticism in audio, critical thinking, reasonable, the reality-based community, you know, using your brain rather than your wallet to get your way out of things. And, you know, this one, he named it Chinese music gear, and it had like a thumbnail, like the rip off or something like that. Most of you understand this is not about Asia or whatever. And I'm not, you know, I have a pretty big no disclaimers policy. I believe that you should take people at the best possible interpretation of what they said rather than the worst. Otherwise, you're just being dishonest. And I get strawmanned a lot, and so I'm not going to do that to somebody else. And I'm also not going to put any disclaimers out, because if you're too small-minded or too much of a bigot to at least assume that I'm saying something in the best way possible, I don't care. I don't care if you're mad at me. But anyway, this wasn't about Chinese people or whatever. This isn't about it. It's funny because most people understood exactly what this is about, but there were a couple comments. Asia this, Asia that. No, nothing about Asia, Asians, whatever. I actually said pleasantly surprised by how few people read just the first part of the title and went on a full triggered witch hunt. The few who did added all the humor. And you know, this isn't a bad one, but let me just go to the next things here. It says, here's my take. Asian manufactured gear can be and often is really good. I have no problems with Korean or Indonesian gear whatsoever, but I actively avoid Chinese products whenever possible. And, you know, there are people who have politically, they don't want things made by Red China, you know, because they care about human rights and freedom and not, people would probably take exception if we talked about the reality of these things. But most of you guys know I'm a huge fan of Korean guitars. And it doesn't matter where you make stuff. It matters what the culture is. What's the quality control like? What does the, you know, what does it support? And it's not every Korean or something, or, it's one specific company who really went out. Well, not just one company, but one company that I think of that makes most of the things that I care about. They are fanatics, and I'm sorry, but they are. They absolutely, you can tell they love their work, and it shows in the quality of the guitars that they put out. And it's not no different than the Japanese guitar fanatics in the 80s that gave us such unbelievable guitars, the Ibanez's and the ESPs and stuff. I think some of the Jacksons, like these guys were just, they loved, they're making their guitars, and it really shows. It shows so much. And, when there is a problem, it's more about, again, culturally or legally what people do. And the big problem with China, even though this wasn't really the subject of it, to me is, well, besides the human rights, which should be at the top of everybody's mind, I wish, and, putting all our eggs in one basket so that our supply chain could get completely destroyed like it is right now. It's more that when you build something there, your intellectual property becomes everybody's intellectual property. And you guys all know, I'm sure, can think of examples of exactly how this happened. But, it has brought us much cheaper gear, that's for sure. But I don't know how much R&D people want to pay for if it's just going to be stolen from them. That's more of this thing. But it's not because it's in China or something that's bad. It's not the issue. Recently, I think a lot of you know that what used to be Korea is now being done mostly in Indonesia. And we've seen a lot of these guitars already, and they're really good. Hold on one second. Let me see who I got here. Hey, is Aaron coming to see you today? Yes. Oh, okay, good. Oh, awesome. I do like a weekly live show with a bunch of people. So anyway, the Indonesian, sorry, this is like, you know how it is. It's a very active school and studio and everything else. The Indonesian guitars we've seen so far have been pretty damn good. I have serious problems, again, human rights wise with Indonesia, but I see people who, I don't know if they care about their stuff. I think they do. I think every video I've seen, I don't know. I've held these guitars, like the Harley Benton, the Amaroks and stuff. They're pretty good. I'm not worried so much. I've had, because of who's doing it, I'm really not worried. I think this Indonesia move so far has been pretty good. So, should we pay the same price? I don't think so, but everything's so much more expensive now. It's hard to compare. And so let's just get this right. It's not about Asia. It's not about China. It's the issues on here that we're talking about were more about what happens when you lose your IP, and how it's kind of hard to tell what you're getting if anybody can just stamp their name on anything. It's not about Asia or China or anything like that. So let me go on from here. Okay, so you guys know that I pretty much got my start in this business because I could find ways to at least keep tremolos in tune long enough to record properly. And it's kind of crazy how little has changed since then. I know we've been talking about the Geldo black boxes and the ESP arming adjusters and stuff, things that we've been fixing up. I did a couple of videos showing putting these things in, and they work fine, but they're in both of my guitars right now. In fact, I got to order another single one because I'm using one of the duals, and I don't think I need that. But there's this product called the Virtual Jeff Pro, and it's crazy. This is it's a tremolo bar that you just stick to your guitar, and it's doing it electronically, of course. And Philip McKnight did a video on it. Looks like it's about $400-$500, and I'm not exactly sure how it works, but as far as I can tell, you It's polyphonic, they say. You just stick a sticker to your guitar and you put this tremolo thing behind your bridge. You plug a cable between your guitar and some device, and that device gets controlled by this whammy bar thing. And I think that it can, I think you can do it wirelessly. I'm not 1,000% sure. I think so. There's like a virtual Jeff pedal. There's some other stuff like a virtual capo, which, wow, that's cool. I'm not sure if you can control this with MIDI or whatever, but they were showing, just changing your tune. I mean, I wasn't changing the string to string tuning, though I think that's going to be possible, if it's not already possible in some technologies like DNA. But this looks good. Like, I'm so tired of fighting tremolo bars. And could I just order a bunch of hardtails and just stick this thing on here? I kind of think so. I know it's electronic. I don't use my tremolo enough to justify all the fighting that I'm constantly doing with these things. And this, this takes away a lot of those worries. And hopefully it can go back to zero. And of course, when you're bending your strings, it's not going to dump the tremolo. This looks cool. Philip McKnight has a video on it. I think it's a paid one. I'm not positive, but it's got like, is this taking the whammy system too far? I don't think so. He does show that you plug into the virtual Jeff pedal, and then that has like an 1/8 inch output to get controlled by the tremolo bar. But I think he's saying it's Bluetooth too. Let me play a little bit of this.
And anywhere in between. And of course, just like before, you actually have presets, so you can do presets on that too.
Now, I wonder how well this is going to translate to like dive bombs and stuff like that, because the whammy pedals do. And I almost want to throw, like, I've got a Helix with like 3 virtual controller thingies on it. I could just do a whammy and get rid of all this tremolo stuff, but yeah, I'm just crazy. But I want to give this thing a try, and I really think this is the technology of the future. It'd be nice to see, maybe just later on have a bridge with a cam in it, and have it right where you'd normally have your tremolo. But it really looks cool, and see what he's saying.
But of course, you can find them on sale on their website for $399, which puts them in the price range of what Digitech whammy pedals are going for and products like this are going for. And like I said, it comes with everything: that Bluetooth adapter, the regular cable. It comes with the unit itself and the foot controller. So it's a complete unit.
Yeah, this looks cool. I really want to try this out. Like I was just saying, I don't like talking about gear, but this is gear I want to talk about. This is awesome. And this is where we should be, where's my flying car type of thing, This is time. Okay, so the next thing. Woo! Tank the Tech. I'm almost scared to talk about this. Tank the Tech has a if you haven't watched his channel, it's pretty cool. He does a lot of behind the scenes thoughts from like a guitar tech person. He does some reaction videos, things like that. But he's got a video called A Roadie's Take on Pay to Play and Tour Buy-Ons. And you guys might know, like my old site, Don't Get Jacked, we talked a lot about these Battle of the Bands scams, pay to play, all this crap. I am familiar with tour buy-ons. I was very wrong about them, I think, early on. I don't really have a problem with tour buy-ons. It makes sense to me why you might do that. I do have a problem with people calling themselves promoters and then, not being able to sell tickets. Like, I understand the pay to play thing. Like, hey, if you're not going to bring any if you're not going to bring any, if you're not going to bring any fans, then I'm going to lose money. And so you're going to have to pay for that somehow. But I understand that this is potentially, and I'm really trying to be fair here. It's hard. I understand that this is potentially a way that bands could get onto shows that they couldn't have gotten onto otherwise. I don't like it. I really think if you're a promoter, you should be promoting the show. And if you are so worried about the risk of a band that they can't bring fans, maybe you shouldn't have that band on. But I understand if we want to get new bands on that nobody's heard of, we may have to do things like this. I don't know, but I'm really not thrilled about it. The tour buy-ons is a slightly different thing. I'm let me just say it. I'm sorry, Joe Valiente. I gave the Funk Junkies some crap about this one time, and they didn't deserve it. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Sometimes it's a chance to get a newer band. A lot more. I don't want to. I'm never going to use the stupid E word, right? The exposure word. But this definitely puts you in front of a lot of potential fans that you wouldn't have had before. And if the band that's doing the tour buy-on is who's in charge of it is dumb enough to bring on a band that's not worth the crap anyway, they kind of deserve to fail too. So I think if people do this thing, they probably do their due diligence and say, hey, are our fans going to like these guys, or are we going to get booed for bringing these guys on tour? So I think it's a little bit different. I'd really recommend watching this video, though. It's Tank the Tech, a roadie's take on pay-to-play tours. A roadie's take on pay-to-play and tour buy-ons. And, he goes into it for a while. I guess I could play some of this, but it's probably better you listen to it. There used to be a site called neverpaytoplay.com, and they really explained a lot of this stuff. But in case you're really not familiar with, here's a webpage called thecraftymusician.com. I think her name's Anitra J. It says, do not take this pay-to-play gig or any others like it. And she says, I received this in my inbox today and I was infuriated. It said, opener slot, up-and-coming band, Reverb Room at the Hard Rock Cafe. It says, seeking rocker blues band. Great opportunity to open for world-renowned blank. Maybe she redacted this. Band regularly tours worldwide in over 37 countries. The show is part of our 2018 Hard Rock Tour. Opening band to sell 30 tickets to the show, and the band must also have backline. For more information on the band, visit something. Tickets are $25 general admission or $75 VIP. Although this is not a paid gig, it is, however, an invaluable opportunity for the right band to get their name out there. And also the opportunity for possible future tours with this band, if this sounds like something you like to play, And so she's saying this is a classic example of pay-to-play gig that independent artists should run far away from. Under some circumstances, this scenario might be acceptable, such as if the headliner is a mainstream act and the show will be at a big venue in your town, and there really is an opportunity for serious exposure. She used the word I didn't. That's okay. Unfortunately, the example above is not one of those circumstances. The example above is a ripoff for the opening act to the highest degree, and it's freaking Hard Rock Cafe. Come on, get out of here. Just as the name suggests, a pay-to-play gig is when you have to pay in order to perform. But, for most bands, every gig is a pay-to-play gig. I mean, if you really look at it this way, you got to pay for gas, you got to do all this stuff. You're probably paying out more money than you're going to get back if you're getting, even if you are getting paid at all. But that's kind of another subject. Some people have gotten creative by disguising the pay-to-play format with a ticket-selling setup, much like the case in the above example. The opening act has to sell a certain amount of tickets in order to be on the bill. Anytime you have to sell a certain number of tickets in order to be on a lineup, it's pay-to-play. Although it may not look like it, you are paying by transferring your financial commitment to your fans. Or more likely your parents just buying the stuff. If you look in the fine print of these contracts, you'll often find that if you don't sell the agreed upon number of tickets, then you have to pay the rest out of your own pocket. And this may be older. I mean, actually, it says 2018, but by 2007 or 2008, I mean, it's pretty established that it doesn't matter how many tickets they give you. It's the price that you just pay the promoter. You're probably not going to sell any tickets, honestly. Most of the time, it's just your parents buying the tickets, and it became Battle of the Fans. If there's still, let me see if Don't Get Jacked is still even a thing. My old blog about audio skepticism, don'tgetjacked.com. No, somebody's got a Don't Get Jacked website though. Here we go. Don't get jacked. Okay. Yeah, I had some stuff on here. Oh wow, this is not that long ago. Wow. I did a little bit on neverpaytoplay.com and neverpaytoplay on here. But basically, it usually ends up that they give each band the maximum capacity of the venue to sell. So that if all the bands really actually sold all those tickets, you wouldn't even legally be able to have those people in there. It'd be 5 times, 4 times, whatever over capacity. Anyways, so she's saying, if you're trying to do music for a living or even just a side hustle, then performing at pay-to-play gigs will eat away at your bottom line. If you were to take this gig, you'd be better than you would be selling at the minimum 30 tickets at $25 each. Doing the math, you'd be earning $750 for someone other than yourself. If you read the ad all the way through, you'll see that you don't get any compensation from playing this gig at all. None. So you will promote your work. You will promote and work your butt off to sell these tickets for someone else to profit from. The pay-to-play model is almost always set up for someone else to make a profit, not you, the artist. That's why it's so infuriating. Someone's trying to make a profit off your talent and your fan base. They need you more than you need them. If you can successfully sell 30 tickets at $25 each in your hometown, you don't need this band to get your name out there, as they so eloquently put it out in the ad. Your name is probably already out there. In fact, this band needs you more than you need them. Don't be fooled. They need you to bring your local friends and family to help them fill the Hard Rock Cafe. Think about that. I don't know. Maybe this is like the biggest Hard Rock Cafe in the world, but I know most of the ones that people play at are pretty damn small. They need you to promote the show for them since it's your hometown. I like the way she thinks about this. I recommend going to check out Tank the Text thing because it is a different perspective on things, and it's cool. So next thing, let's see. All right. Well, the freaking TGP mods are shadow banning me again. So there's some interesting threads going on, and so I guess we should talk about them. Somebody took some exception. Of course they do, because it's a Tonewood myth yet again. We're talking about there's some scientific papers out there on Tonewood. If you don't know what this is, it's the belief that on an electric guitar, the sound is substantially influenced by the species of wood that the guitar is made out of. And, there are things that can happen, but it's like, for the most part, an electric guitar with the regular pickup, it's a motor, it's a generator, just like the alternator in your car. If you change your car's hood to wood, it's not going to make the alternator put out any less voltage or current or whatever, People take exception with that, and that's okay. We talked about this before. Jim Lill, he's a guy who does a lot of testing videos. He made the air guitar. I mean, you've seen tons of these things, but this one is a guitar where he just took two tables and he put a bridge on one side and a headstock sort of a headstock on the other side with tuners on it and stuff and a nut, and just put strings right across there and played it like a guitar. And guess what? It sounded just like a guitar. And it's a video called Tested, Where Does the Tone Come From in an Electric Guitar? And that's Jim Lill, Lill. And it's just another one of these ones where they just show that, a guitar sounds like a guitar. It's not the wood. They make these things out of concrete, glass, plexiglass, fiberglass, carbon, cardboard, air. Think about all the different things guitar's been made out of. And, it's just, but there was a claim that there was some scientific papers. So I typed in Google, into Google Scholar. So refined, right? I just typed peer-reviewed papers on electric guitar wood. And, I didn't come up with much. Let's put peer-reviewed in quotes here and see if we can't get. I really want to read what people were saying about this. That's kind of important, right? So let me get this. It's really nothing coming out here. Sorry, it's a little loud, but there's a paper. So this is a journal published by the Polish Academy of Sciences Committee on Acoustics, Institute of Fundamental Technological Research, Polish Acoustical Society. This is pretty cool. You have a Polish Acoustical Society, and they have, they do stuff like this. And so this was published by Jan Jasinki, University of Science and Technology, Poland, Stanislaw Oles, AGH University of Science and Technology, Poland, Daniel Tokarczyk. So I wish I knew how to say these things, and I think I'm Polish too. That's same university in Marek Pluta, I think. So it's electric guitar manufacturers have used tropical woods in guitar production for decades, claiming it is beneficiary to the quality of the instruments. These claims have often been questioned by guitarists, but now with many voices raising concerns regarding the ecological sustainability of such practices, the topic becomes even more important. And so, yeah, this is one thing that we don't talk about much. We don't have much wood out there. We got way too many people, and the lungs of the world are getting choked out. The last thing we need is to cut them down to make our stupid guitars out of, right? And so the differences between the acoustic characteristics of tones produced by the tone wood samples explored in the study were larger than just the noticeable differences reported for the respective characteristics in literature. But what I keep seeing these things where they're comparing the acoustic sounds of wood, like knocking on it makes xylophones, like that stupid Paul Reed Smith video or whatever. But I only care what's coming out of the pickups. Okay, so let's look at this one. I'm gonna put it in full screen. So I really want the methodology here. Where you say experimental method. Electric guitars design was heavily simplified, so they're making things out of blocks of wood. And right there, this should tell you something, that if you're just going to use a plank and not cut it to guitar shape, or using some thin thing, if the species of wood mattered at all, I think the size of that thing would matter, because, you can think about how a xylophone is made. You get the exact same thing and make different sizes out of it. You get different pitches. And so let's just, I don't want to kill you with this methodology, but they did make a plucking mechanism, because that's one of the hard parts, right? Is to make sure you're picking the same way every time. Come on, that kind of change is responsible for most of this, I would say, or quite a bit of it. So they show the wood sample that the wood plank they use, where they drill the pickups into and everything. And it makes sense to put a string across it, probably at the same scale length. Let's see. Drilled by a CNC, smart. The dimensions of the samples were chosen specifically to recreate the proportions and dimensions of a traditional electric guitar as much as possible. I don't think so. I don't think so at all, because this thing is way too skinny to be that. Vastly different wooden materials were used to make the sample. Sapele, rosewood, plywood, and pine. Let's see. So densities. They list the densities, and the bridge, nut, and tuning peg were mounted in distances such as a traditional S-type guitar with a scale length of 647.7 millimeters. Let's see what that is. I'm betting that's going to be millimeter to inches. It's going to be 25 and a half. Okay. So that's a 25 and a half inch scale length, basically. So that's proper. Both a humbucker and a single coil pickup were utilized. The humbucker was mounted the same distance from the bridge as the bridge pickup on Les Paul type guitars, while the single coil was located in the position of a neck pickup on a traditional Strat type guitar. Smart. Same type of pickups and mounting hardware was used, and only signals generated by the guitar pickups were analyzed. So this is proper. This is one that so many of them get wrong. They're like, well, check it out. And then they make all these different guitars out of wood, different woods, and then they only check the acoustical properties, not the electrical output of the pickup, which is where the things actually matter. Let's see. To check the range of differences between all samples after setting them with hardware and a set of distances were measured. Only signals were blah, blah, blah. The microphones set around the model were used to record sound produced by the string, but these signals are beyond the scope of this article. Smart. Okay, good. So that doesn't matter. In order to remove string excitation as a variable, a special mechanism was designed to provide a repetitive pick. This mechanism consisted of a spring from a hair clip connected to a hinge on the side of a latch on one side and a latch on the other. When closed, the spring is under tension and bounces away when released. After attaching a guitar pick to the string's free end, this motion was used to repeatedly pluck a string. The whole mechanism was mounted on a wooden frame and clamped to the samples. This is cool. So, this is going to make a more consistent study. So let's see the results. The recorded signals were subjected to a suite of parametric analysis. The results for both the humbucker and the single coil pickups were highly similar, so only those regarding the humbucker will be shown and discussed. Calculated tonal parameters, spectral centroid roll-off bandwidth showed clear differences between signals recorded with different wood samples. Interesting, right? Let's see what that is. The spectral centroid of the signal, which is a strong indicator of the perceived brightness of the played song, showed particularly distinct deviations for the pitch E2. Let's look at what they got. So they're saying, according to these guys, they got quite a different. Let's see, what are we reading here? Comparisons of the spectral centroid values with standard deviations recorded for the pitch E4 with the humbucker for different tone woods. Please note that the chart values do not start at 0. What is this trying to say? That rosewood had a centroid? What the hell is this spectral centroid value? I need to know that. I am grossly ignorant on this, and let's fix that right now. Search Google for spectral centroid value. Spectral centroid. A spectral centroid is the measure used in digital signal processing to characterize a spectrum. Well, that's kind of a tautology, isn't it? It indicates where the center mass of the spectrum is located. Perceptually, it has a robust connection with the impression of brightness of sound. I don't get this. There's no way that... Oh, I thought this said 22,000. Okay. So allegedly, the Pines thing is way down at like 800. Okay, so Poo Ninja is saying, yeah, Parker Fly had a carbon one for sure. Okay, hold on. Let me get back to this in a second. Okay. So Poo Ninja, I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago, he said he's going to try out this Harley Benton, the stereo one, and see if he could bridge it. Says the bridge, Harley Benton Thunder 99, didn't seem worth it as far as adding output volume. Interesting. And spectral centroid is the middle of where the tone ghost lives. I have a problem. I don't understand how they're claiming this. Okay, hold on. The spectral centroid of the signal of the played sound showed particularly distinct deviations for the pitch E2. The centroid ranged from 306 hertz to 347 hertz. For D3, it did from 410 hertz to 560 hertz, while for E4, the values range between 1500 hertz and 2260 hertz. These are differences that should be easily perceptible to the listener, but this issue will be expanded on in a further chapter. I've never been able to find something like this, but I don't understand it anyway. Is this like the first harmonic or something? What the hell does this mean? Because the note is the note. I mean, that should be the strongest. That should be the strongest of all, right? I mean, normally I would think that the fundamental is going to be strongest. It could not be. Interesting here is there's another one says comparison of RMS values with standard deviations recorded for the pitch E2 with the humbucker for different tone woods. I don't know what they're measuring here, but he's saying like one of these things is 22 RMSs. I mean, is this decibels? What are we looking at? And what is the comparison? Are you telling me that a pickup made out of Sapele is going to be 20 dB more RMS than one out of, and then plugged into a guitar made out of pine. I don't believe that at all. I may be reading this wrong, but Jim Lill's air guitar throws this right out the window if that's the claim. Roll off values. I'm having trouble believing any of this. But seems to be done right-ish. I don't understand their terms. I'm actually having a lot of trouble with their terms. So here's the average of their spectra, and I don't see anything that's like 20 decibels away from the other one. It just doesn't seem possible. I have some questions. This is why I'm trying to find peer review, because I want to see what people are saying. These guys' conclusion said that it's definitely having an impact, and I don't believe it. I don't think I like this methodology. I like the methodology. Sorry, I'm having trouble with how they're measuring the results. I'd like to keep going on this. I'd like to do some more and figure out some more, but I was having a lot of trouble finding anything that was really well done and well documented in a way that would make any sort of sense to us whatsoever. So the Department of Physics and Astronomy, going to Texas A&M, had the same kind of thing. Let's see. The importance of the quality of wood used in an acoustic guitar is seemingly intuitive, as the resonance of the wood is necessary to generate an audible sound from the instrument. I think that is true in some ways, but you can take several different species of wood and get the same sound out of an acoustic, and you can get the same species and get different sounds. So he's saying timbre in this is defined in this study as the ratio of the amplitude of the harmonics of a note relative to its fundamental pitch. And here we go. This is where things sound different, but how much of that is going to get contributed by the construction in any way, shape, or form? I mean, we've seen the air guitar, and it sounds, if you were to ABX that with people, they're going to say, they're not going to pick one which is the real guitar and which ones are not a real guitar. It's, what length of pegs do I use? Yeah, 4.5 inch or 5 inch. Okay, sorry. Let's see. 2 guitars were constructed identically, with the only difference being the type of wood used, specifically maple and mahogany. 3 different strings were played on the guitars. Each was plucked to produce notes that were analyzed for differences in timbre across the wood. The maple had more harmonic content than the mahogany for the low E string, while the opposite was true for the D string. But how different were they? Were they different to the point of audibility? The amount of peer-reviewed research on the subject is currently lacking. Yep. Let's see where we got our results. So it seems to have done this pretty well. Let's see. Guitar hardware. And it looks like this guy made, this is really cool. He made a like a pendulum to pick. Like a wood that'll swing an arm that runs a pick. That's really smart. And interesting. I'm looking at his waveforms here, and it says mahogany low E, and they look very different. What's the difference here? G string. Okay, for each string, 40 samples were collected by raising the pendulum of the picking apparatus to the same height each time and letting go, plucking that string in the same spot every time. Pendulum was secured by hand, preventing it from falling back down and striking the ring prematurely. Could probably do a little bit better than that, but the pendulum would then be brought back around and let go to strike the string again for 45 seconds. Okay. Each audio file was normalized by bringing up the loudest peak to 0 decibels relative to full scale. I hope you guys know why that could be a massive problem. Your peak normalization is not necessarily going to bring you anything like volume normalization. Let's see. So measuring the amplitude, transforming data for better comparability. Let's see. Text was output into Microsoft Excel where measured amplitude of each harmonic for a note was divided by the amplitude of the fundamental frequency. Measured amplitude of the note. So in that case, if that's true, it might be okay to do a peak normalization. Oh, that's right. So let's look at the results here. So if we're looking at the mahogany, low E, and maple, the amplitude seems a lot different for these different things. It's they sure get this closer. It's like the first harmonic really is very different than the rest of it. The rest doesn't seem to make much difference at all. But yeah, let's see, harmonic number 2, and well, that's really it. Maybe 3, not by much, but harmonic 2 it says here. That one seems very different than these. I'm interested. Again, I'd like to see some peer-reviewed. I'd like to see the peer review. How much different is that really? 1.6. It could be a lot. So indicate that while timbres for the two woods are different, one is not specifically brighter than the other. And measures of reliability. I'd really like to see. Oh, tuning accuracy. I'd like to see some peer review. But these two papers make it seem like there really is some effect on tone wood, but it can't be as big as this is suggesting, or we would hear it when we're making the air guitars, as far as I can tell. There's another one, but most of these that I'm looking at, they really just check the acoustic output of the guitar. Okay, so let's go on to some other stuff. I really want to keep going as soon as I can actually find some peer review. So far, these are just self-reported papers that it looks like, really, for the most part. So let's go to, there's a thread at TGP where will Helix ever get an accurate JCM 800 model? And there's a lot of back and forth about amp technology. And lots of times, I always say, most of these guys that claim to hear all these giant differences don't. But they're pretty technically on a lot of this stuff about these Marshall 800s and the constructions of them and stuff. And it's funny that we're still talking about Marshall 800s, right? But it's a pretty good read over at the gear page. And one of the things that gets mentioned in there is this guy, Guitar John, Sonic Drive Studios, who keeps putting up these videos. Like this one says, blind test Quad Cortex versus Helix versus Axe FX 3 versus PRS Archon. And they go through piles and piles and piles of, he tests these different amps, the Helix versus other modelers versus the real amp. And a lot of times, I mean, you obviously know what's going to happen. People can't guess the real amp for the most part. There are some people who seem to be consistently able to, which is interesting, but I'm not super convinced. But there's just page after page of what you'd expect. God of the gaps, moving the goalposts, all kinds of excuses why this wasn't a correct study. But the one that was really getting me is that there's a claim that if you run something through an impulse, everything's going to sound the same. And I'll tell you what, if you can come up with something that makes everything sound the same, short of deleting or muting it, we would very much pay handsomely for that DSP off of you, because different sounds sound different, and some blanket way that could make them all sound the same, it doesn't exist. Again, you could mute them or delete them. I guess that would be the caveat there. But Sonic Drive Studios has a ton of tests of building different trying these things out back to back and really checking whether people can hear it. It's very interesting stuff. And so of course something else comes up as the about load boxes and stuff. These are very good reads. There's another one called Blind Test, where it seems it's in the digital and modeling section of the forum. Blind Test, amp cabinet, amp load box. And it very much seems like this is not a proper test, but I think you can really learn about how to do a good test by reading this thread. But I would highly recommend going to Sonic Drive Studios YouTube page and checking out some of these blind tests. And I just went and kind of grabbed some of the impulses that he was talking about. And I spent another $30 on impulses. Like, I'm a glutton for punishment. I don't know what I'm doing. That's like hours of my life worth of money, right? But I actually enjoyed some of these new impulses from Ownhammer of all places. I got the Workhorse V30. I really like it. I like the Celestion still too. And I guess finally, this is going to be kind of a short one today. Is it short? What time is it? Just trying to... How far is this stream? Oh, it's not telling... Oh, 45 minutes already. Wow. Okay, sorry. I'd like to say I'm still making the, DIY FRs out of combo amps. And I had a problem where I thought that the F12X200 was distorting, or it was distorting. I thought I had blown the speaker or something. Turns out, again, there's always that error between the keyboard and the chair. I was just feeding too much level into the effects return of the Fender Mustang 3. When I turned it down, that distorting problem went away. So there you go. I'm still on the hunt for some 2x12 stereo combo amps to try out for this, and I'll let you know how that goes next week, hopefully, if I get my hands on one.